Hello and welcome to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg, and I am here today to do a Friday Reads video. This is where I wrap up the week in reading and talk about any exciting bookish things that happened during the week, or even unexciting bookish things that happened during the week. The big thing that happened this week, of course, is the Booker Prize shortlist was announced. I did film a reaction video. It will be linked in the description box down below if you haven't checked it out. Your spoiler alert for that is that I wasn't really excited about the long list this year, and I'm not super excited about the shortlist either. It's my bitter Booker year, as I keep saying, because it amuses me. But there has been kind of mixed reaction to the list this year. There are people who are really excited because the books that they liked off of the long list made it. It's a whole thing. People have different opinions. It's all good. This year, I just am having a bit of an off year with the Booker, and that's fine. It is what it is. And we'll see what happens. The winner is not announced for, I think, 2 months. I have my cheat sheet here. So the winner will be announced on November 26th. The good news is we have a lot of things that are still going to be going on as we continue our way through Book Prize season, because we have, I think, 2 weeks off from book prizes, but then on October 3rd, we're going to be getting the National Book Awards shortlist for fiction and all of the other categories that they have. And that same week, the Nobel Prizes are going to be announced. So hopefully we will be getting a new Nobel laureate for literature, which means I have videos for next week, actually. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the week after that, I need to film 2 reactions and then edit them and post them the same day the following week. So I'm going to have an easy week next week, and then I'll have a tough week with videos. But yeah, so we have a little bit of a lull next week, and then we get right back into it. And then we have to wait until November for the winners of the National Book Award and the Booker Prize. And then we're going to be in Best Book of the Year season at that. We're already in that stage of the year, and I'm really excited about that. It also got really cold where I live in Montana this week. You can tell because I'm wearing a flannel over a t-shirt, and I'm living my best life right now. It's a little bit too cold. Like, I love crisp fall weather. We kind of sailed past crisp, but it's supposed to balance out a little bit next week. Hopefully that will be the case. I'll show you my t-shirt. So this is for the Trail of the Hiawatha. Joel and I biked this last weekend with a friend. We try to do it at least once every summer, and we always want to do it more and then only really end up doing it once. But it's really cool. It's on the border of Montana and Idaho, and it's an old rail line, and they have converted it into a bike trail. It's really cool. It's like an all-day thing, but it's mostly downhill. It's not steeply downhill. It's just graded enough that you can coast for a lot of the ride. So it's not a difficult bike ride. And it's gorgeous. Like, you get to go over the old train trestles. They are bridges that you can take your bike over now. And it's really cool if you are ever in the western Montana or in the panhandle of Idaho, and you're looking for something to do for a day. I highly recommend that during the summer. It's really cool. And you get to go through a tunnel that is, I think, over a mile long, and it's pitch black. So you have to have like a light on your bike or your helmet. It's really cool. We love doing it every year. So I got this t-shirt last weekend and just wanted to show it off. So I mentioned I have already filmed 2 videos for next week. It was a bit of a slow work week, so I managed to get back to filming ahead. I had kind of lost the plot with that a little bit. So I can sort of tease you with the book videos that are coming next week. I think I'm going to schedule my Pulitzer one for Monday. So a lot of people... I've had a lot of new subscribers since I did that 25 best books of the last 25 years, like a lot more. That video is... I thought people would like it. I didn't think it would be anywhere near as successful as it has been. It's been, I think, 2 months since I posted it, and it is by far the most popular video I have ever made on this channel. By a lot. The other videos that were the most popular were some of my most original, like the earliest videos that I did. So they're 4 years old, and they had, I think, in the neighborhood of 34 or 35,000 views. That 25 best video has like 56,000, and it's only 2 months old. wild. But anyway, point just being, there are a lot of new people who have come on in the last 2 months, and they've been going through a lot of my older videos. And one of the videos that has been getting a lot of comments is a video I did when I decided to do my Pulitzer Project about my favorite Pulitzer books that I had already read at that point. And people want an update. So you're getting the update on Monday. But it's interesting because I will talk about Pulitzer books that I had already read before I decided to do my project in that video, which makes it a little bit fun. So I've read 41 of the Pulitzer books, but I've only read 8 or 9 for my project. So there are a lot more that I have read that I haven't talked about in a deep dive because I kind of want to reread them. So it's a chance for me to actually talk about them. And I do a ranking. Very informal and off the cuff, but that will be coming on Monday. I thought I had a lot of fun doing it. Hopefully you have a lot of fun watching it. So I think I'm going to schedule that one for Monday, so you can stay tuned for that. And then I have my book haul for the month of September, which will be scheduled probably for Thursday. So again, easy week for me. I won't really have to film anything because the following week, I know what the 2 videos I'm going to do in addition to my Friday Reads are. It's going to be the National Book Award shortlist and Nobel reaction. I might try to film something ahead. I don't know. But so that's what you have coming next week and then the week after that. So exciting things are coming. Again, with the book prizes, exciting things are coming because I'm really excited about these videos I have coming next week. And I do want to mention, before I mention the next exciting thing that's coming up, that Montana Book Company, my favorite bookstore, in case you are one of the people who's new here, hi. So they got a 1-star review on Google, and they decided to do that thing where you turn the 1-star review into a t-shirt design. But the fun thing about this one is that all of the proceeds, I have it in front of me. So the proceeds from it will not be going to Montana Book Company. They will be going to, 100% of the profits will go to United Against Book Bans. So basically, it will help fight book bans, which is pretty cool. I will have a link to this down below. By the time this video posts, you'll have about a week to make a purchase because this is a limited time bonfire campaign. I bought a t-shirt. Joel bought a t-shirt. Just, think about it. If you want a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, whatever, check it out. So the review is 1 star, and they just took a sentence from the 1-star review, which is where they mind corrupt your children's and possible steal them. They must get funded by the deep state. And then there's the Montana Book Company logo underneath. So fun t-shirt, but really fun campaign. Like, I love what the money is going to. I love that they are supporting anti-book ban efforts, and what's better than that? So I will have a link to the bonfire campaign in the description box down below. Feel free to check it out if you need a fun t-shirt that supports a good cause. So the final exciting thing that is coming up is that you may have heard, if you've been around for a while, Joel and I went to Italy last year, and we've been very smug about it ever since. Well, we're going to have something else that we can be very smug about next year, because we booked tickets to go to Ireland and Scotland in 2024. And we're really excited about this. I have family that came from Italy, but I also have family that came from Ireland and Scotland. My last name is actually Scottish. So I'm mostly Italian because my mom is all Italian, so I'm half. But I'm 25% Irish and Scottish, and it's pretty much like right down the middle. So I have a lot of family that came from there. I mean, my father's family has been in the United States since like 1850, but still, there's a family connection to there, a little bit of heritage and history, but we've also really just wanted to go for a long time. Like, we made Italy our priority, but we're really excited to do this, and we've been planning what we're going to do. So we're going to go to Dublin, spend a couple of days there, and explore around using Dublin as a sort of hub. And then we're going to go to Scotland, not for long. We would love to be there longer, but we are going to make it there and mostly spend time in Edinburgh. And then we're going to go back into Ireland and hit Galway, because sweaters. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out the sweaters that they make on the Aran Islands. It's our vibe. We're really excited about the sweaters. So anyway, that is kind of the plan. So, of course, in anticipation of going, I immediately started thinking about books. By the way, I already have like a list of bookstores that we could potentially visit in Ireland, especially in Dublin, since we'll be spending most of our time there. My number one, of course, my number one is the Trinity Library. That is a huge item on my bucket list, and the Book of Kells. But that's not a bookstore. I just had to say it. Like, that is one of my biggest bucket list items in the bookish world. And I'm really excited that we are going to be able to do it. So, my number one bookstore, though, is probably the Gutter Bookshop, and I'm just really excited about that. I also found a bookstore in Edinburgh that describes themselves as a radical bookstore, and they are queer-owned and women-led, and that is everything I am about. So I'm really excited about that as well. So I have a whole like bookstore list as options that we can do, but those are two that I definitely want to hit. But I've been planning reading as well. So I have a little bit of a list of Irish and Scottish authors. So I went back. I did a video a while ago. I did a couple of videos along a similar theme. So I think in March, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, I did a video about what are the best Irish books of all time and have I read them. So I just Googled the best Irish books and went with the results and went through to see if I had read them. So I'll link that video down below. It was kind of fun to do that. And then I also did the best books by women. And I think for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I did Asian American authors. So I'll have the Irish one down below. So I went there and I pulled up a list of authors, and I already had some that were in mind that I really wanted to get to. So I have a sort of short list of books that I really want to read. And of course, I'm going to ask you for recommendations. And this is where Jackie McMenamin, if you're watching, get in the comments. I need you. But anybody else, if you have recommendations for Irish books or authors that you would recommend I try to read before I go, let me know. I have already I've read one Sally Rooney book. I don't think she's for me. So I know I can feel people immediately wanting to type Sally Rooney. And I've read one. I think she's a talented writer. I also think she's not quite for me. So I've done that one. So one thing, I also want to do some nonfiction. And of course, I think this is a perfect excuse for me to read Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe, because I've heard really good things about that book, and it's probably a really good way to get into the Troubles and the history of that. And if there's a better book that you would recommend for that, let me know in the comments down below. But I feel like that's the one I am thinking of, and it's been out long enough that whenever I'm ready for it, the audio is pretty much available on Libby. Maybe I'll have to wait for one person to get through. So I'm definitely planning to do that for nonfiction. I need a book about the Irish famine. If you have recommendations, let me know, because I was looking around and most of the books look a bit older and I just really didn't know where to go. So if you have a recommendation about that topic, I would love to hear it in the comment section down below. Of course, we're planning to read an Oscar Wilde. I read The Importance of Being Earnest in high school, and that's the only Oscar Wilde book that I have read. I've seen a taping of a play of The Picture of Dorian Gray, so Joel and I are planning to read The Picture of Dorian Gray for sure. So let me show you what I have, because I have a pile of possibilities here. Most of these are Irish authors. So if you have Scottish authors that you would like to recommend, let me know. So I only have two that I have in my possession that are Scottish authors, and I have some other ideas. We're going to start with Irish because that's what I have the most of. So I picked up at the library today The Country Girls by Edna O'Brien. This edition is the trilogy, 3 novels and an epilogue with a new introduction. So the books, I think The Country Girls is the first one. I'm forgetting what the second ones are about, but I've kind of been wanting to read Edna O'Brien for a while anyway. So it's The Country Girls, then The Lonely Girl, then Girls in Their Married Bliss, and then an epilogue. The Country Girls seems to be the place to go. And I remember Sean the Book Maniac has liked Edna O'Brien, so I asked him, if you were going to tell me a place to start with Edna O'Brien, what would you say? And he said The Country Girls. So my library had a copy of the whole trilogy, so I picked that up. And you know what's funny is my reading life is a mess. We'll be getting to the Friday Reads portion of this video in a second. So I don't know when I'm going to have the time and energy to do this, but hopefully I can renew the hold and just eventually I'll be ready for it. But enthusiasm got the better of me. It looks like The Country Girls is not 200 pages, so I need to remind myself of that. The book is huge because it's 3 books in one. The Country Girls itself is under 200 pages. So that is the first book that I have, and I got it from the library. I picked up another one from the library this morning as well. Now, if anybody really knows Irish pronunciation, please feel free to correct me. I did look on Google to see how to pronounce this author's name, and so I'm going to say it the way Google taught me, and if I'm incorrect, don't be shy about correcting me. The book I got is Are You Somebody? The Accidental Memoir of a Dublin Woman, and according to Google, you pronounce her name Nuala O'Foylan. Again, if I got that wrong, please don't be shy about correcting me. I want to get it right. So I have heard great things about Nuala O'Foylan for a long time. She had just published a novel, and my Dream of You or something like that, around the time I started working at Borders the first time. And the cover always caught my attention, and I actually was thinking about that book when I thought of Nuala O'Foylan and looked her up. But this one sounded really interesting. It's not a very long book either, so this should be pretty doable. It's just over 200 pages, but it's a memoir about her growing up, and it's about the gender experience in Ireland. And since we're going to be spending so much time in Dublin, the idea that this is a memoir of a Dublin woman really sounded appealing to me. So I checked my local used bookstore for both of these first, and they didn't have them. But the library did. So I grabbed The Country Girls by Edna O'Brien and Are You Somebody? The Accidental Memoir of a Dublin Woman by Nuala O'Foylan. Really excited about both of those. Then I looked at my local used bookstore, and one thing that people consistently told me after I did that video about the best Irish novels is that The Commitments by Roddy Doyle is a really good book, and people have very consistently recommended it to me ever since. Not just on that video, just in general. People have mentioned The Commitments. I think the movie adaptation is supposed to be really good as well. I've never seen it. So they did have this at my local used bookstore. Spoiler for my October book haul, I had already filmed my September one, so it won't be in there. And this, again, is 3 books in one. So I am reminding myself this is a chunky monkey, but it's 3 books in one. Like, The Commitments is under 200 pages. So this should be good. And I have a copy in my house, so I don't need to worry about, like with the library books, I don't have to worry about renewing it and trying to fit it in. I have time before we leave to make sure I get to The Commitments. Really excited about that. I have already had copies of Column to be Tobin. Again, correct me on the pronunciation if I get it wrong. I've pretty much decided I want The Blackwater Lightship to be the first book of his that I read. So that's here, and hopefully I will be getting to that. And of course, Sebastian Barry. Days Without End was something that a lot of people recommended to me. So I think this is the one that I would be starting with. I know Old God's Time was just on the Booker long list and didn't make the short list. I think this is where I would start with that. So those are the ones that I have on hand. I also had noted down authors from that list of the best Irish books. They had Maeve Binchy. Is that worth exploring? Let me know down below. Tana French. I've never read a Tana French book just because I have been pretty down on the mystery thriller genre, but I've heard good things about hers. John Banville. I have read The Sea. Is that the one he won the Booker for? But maybe I should explore a little bit more. Let me know what you think down below. Samuel Beckett, I'm not opposed to giving a try. I've never read Dracula by Bram Stoker. I'm really excited about William Trevor. Brian at Bookish has talked about him a fair amount and had recommended some specific titles, and I don't remember what they are, but I have them noted down, and I just need to look them up and keep an eye out for them, because my local used bookstore did not have, well, they did have a couple of William Trevor books, but I didn't remember which ones had been recommended, and I didn't have access to them at that point. So next week I have to go back to my local used bookstore armed with that information, and William Trevor is definitely an author. So that's the Irish one. I would love an author of color, if that is a thing that someone could recommend. Hi, Editing Greg is jumping in because I just realized I totally set myself up for people to recommend James Joyce to me a lot, especially since I'm going to be spending time in Dublin. And I'm not sure I want to do that to myself. If you want to make a case for James Joyce, let me know. I talked about Ulysses when I did my video about books I will probably never read, because watch that video. I'll link it down below. But I'm not convinced that I want to do that to myself just because I'm going to be in Dublin. I feel like maybe if I was going to do James Joyce, maybe Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. But if you want to recommend James Joyce, just know there's going to be an uphill battle to convince me. So there you go. Moving into the Scottish area, I only have 2 books in my possession that I can read. I feel like this is a perfect excuse for me to read Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan. I've been really wanting to read this for 2 years now at this point, and perfect excuse to give me a kick in the pants to finally read this book. So that should be happening. And then I saw that Damien Barr is Scottish. So I've been wanting to read You Will Be Safe Here for a while anyway. So hopefully I will be getting around to that. And then the other authors on my list are Arthur Conan Doyle. I've never read any of his books. Val McDermid. I've read Hamnet and The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell, but she had that book, I Am. I might go back and read that one. Muriel Spark, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, is something I've been wanting to read for a long time, so I will probably seek that one out. I just don't have a copy. Robert Louis Stevenson and J.M. Barrie. So that's what I kind of found from a quick Google search. If you have other recommendations, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really excited about this trip, looking forward to it, and being a dude with a booktube channel and just a general nerd about books, I'm excited about the reading. And I'm excited for bookstores. I was excited to see Italian bookstores when we went there, but because there's a language barrier, it wasn't too much of a focus of the trip. But I'm really excited about Irish and Scottish bookstores. So, and I've read Claire Keegan, of course. You can probably see Small Things Like These. And I have a copy of Foster next to it over there. She has a new book that's coming out in the United States this fall, and I have it pre-ordered. But yeah, so I've already read her as well. But let me know if you have recommendations for Irish, Scottish authors, especially if you have an author of color that you could recommend. And I particularly need a nonfiction book about the Irish famine. If you have a fiction book about the Irish famine, that's Days Without End by Sebastian Barry actually came up on a list of books about the Irish famine, but it seems adjacent because I think the characters immigrate to the United States to get away. So I don't think it's actually about it. But if you have fiction books about it, let me know. But I was thinking nonfiction. And I'm thinking Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe to cover the Troubles. But let me know if you have other recommendations. Oh, Milkman. I forgot to write that one down. But maybe I will finally give myself a kick in the pants to read Milkman by Anna Burns. That is probably something else that will happen. So those are the exciting things that are coming up. I'm also just generally excited about the holiday season coming. You know, I'm just grasping onto it for a bit of joy and riding that out. In terms of Friday reads, like I said, it's been a very quiet week. Let's start with the audio because I flamed out with my audiobook that I actually started, which is Bookshops and Bonedust by Travis Baldree. So this is, it's described in an odd way. It's not a sequel to Legends and Lattes, but it's not described as a prequel. And I'm not far enough into it to really know exactly it, but it seems to follow the same character. I'm pretty sure it's a prequel, but they describe it as set within the world of Legends and Lattes. So I read Legends and Lattes, and it was a very cute book. So this felt like exactly the sort of comforting book that I would kind of need right now as I work through. You probably know. We lost a dog in August and working through the feels still. So I needed something comforting. The problem is in a week, I've made it 6% into the audio, and that's it. So Joel and I are actually driving to Spokane this weekend. We're going to see the Tina Turner musical, and that's really going to be exciting. So we were talking about what we were going to listen to on the drive, and we were originally thinking this would be a good excuse to to cross The Picture of Dorian Gray off of our list. But I mentioned that I had started this and didn't get any further. So we decided we're probably going to do Bookshops and Bonedust. I'll just I'm only 6% in, so we'll go back to the beginning and probably listen to that as we drive. So I flamed out on audio. Usually, if I'm having a hard time reading, audio is what saves me, and it's the opposite right now. I'm just having a really difficult time focusing and paying attention on an audio. I've actually been listening to a lot of old episodes of they're all old episodes of Two Dope Queens, because that's a podcast that doesn't get made anymore. But it's a comedy podcast that I used to listen to all the time. I still occasionally, when I need a laugh or some joy in my life, go back and listen to them. So I've been doing that, and because that's about all I can focus on. The episodes are usually anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes, which is pretty doable. And it's comedy, so I can do it in bits and installments, and I don't have to focus all that hard. So that's the speed I'm at right now with audio. And it's just, you can't explain these things. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with audio right now. All I can do is write it out and get back to it when I'm ready. So I have made a good chunk of progress on Rabbit Run, actually, which is a little surprising because this book irritates me so much. But I think in a weird way that's comforting, because I was also reflecting the other day. So when we were in Pullman, Washington, so Jamie, our dog, could be treated for a nasal tumor, the thing that really carried me through was books that I was mildly irritated with, because it was almost the quality of like a hate read, which made it kind of compelling. So I think I'm able to latch onto this book because it irritates me. And I will say, since my last check-in, there was a lull. It starts aggressively objectionable, and then there's a bit of a lull where it's not good, but it's not actively terrible either. And I have a feeling I know one thing that happens toward the end, and I haven't gotten there. I think I'm probably just about to get there. There's a tragedy that happens, and I know what it is because I accidentally saw it. But I think it's going to get actively objectionable as I head into the ending. But the middle of the book was this perfect sweet spot where it was annoying but not hateful, and the opening is hateful. What's really interesting about this book is I feel like this is meant to be a critique, but the book is so in Rabbit's corner, and maybe this will change in the last 50 pages. And I think that's what I would need to have any possible chance of coming around to thinking that this is an okay or good book. I need critique. I need it to say something about who Rabbit is, the terrible things that he does, the terrible things that he believes, but instead the book just feels infatuated with Rabbit in a way. Like, he behaves badly, but the book has this really palpable affection for him. And it's not a first-person narration, but the narration of the book is very much in Rabbit's corner, and to the point where it is complicit in a lot of the terrible things that he does. Like, a lot of the misogyny in this book comes from the narration, not from Rabbit. But it's weirdly tied together. Like, I think I noted down one example in my notes. Let me just see if I can find it on the page so I can give you a sort of example. Okay. This acknowledgement from her husband, despite some talking to they've probably had from Eccles, goads the fat hag into turning on Harry and telling him, if you're sitting there like a buzzard young man hoping she's going to die, you might as well go back where you came from. So it's not Harry that's calling this woman a fat hag. It's the narration. But the narration is almost like acting in Harry's defense, because he's clearly, this is his mother-in-law, by the way. So the narration of the book is complicit. Like, when a woman in particular, irritates Rabbit, the book will insult them in the narration. So right now, the narration feels complicit in all of the terrible and awful and objectionable things that are happening in this book. And boy, howdy, there are a lot. So, and it feels like this is really a critique of society at the time. And it's an interesting book because it was not planned to be a series when this one was written, but there ended up being 4 books in the series. And it's mostly concerned with, from things I've seen online, and it definitely bears out when you read the book, because it's very obsessed with religion and the marriage between Harry and his wife. And John Updike was very concerned with the crumbling of both of those institutions in the mid-century. Marriage as an institution crumbling, and the idea that people were moving away from the church. But there's no interrogation of those things. It's just, and maybe that'll change in the last 50 pages, but religion was oppressive to a lot of people, and it's not interrogating that. It's kind of just being like, oh, these, Harry doesn't go to church. Janice doesn't go to church. Harry kind of goes to church. He would be willing to go with it. He kind of has faith, as if that's going to make him a good guy, but it's not really interrogating the idea of like damage, like why people are moving away from the church. It does have a character who's sort of a hypocritical preacher, but it's not doing a lot to interrogate the other side of that. And at the same time, like, yes, Harry and his wife have a terrible marriage. They married very young. And then they didn't really know what life was going to be. And then they figured it out. And we're like, oh, I feel stuck. Shouldn't they be able to say, you know what? I didn't really know what I was in for. I think we're both going to be happier if we get divorced. Like, it's just weird. Maybe the last 50 pages will wrap something up in that. But right now it's just irritating. And we'll see. So that's where I'm at with Rabbit Run right now, and with the audio that I'm kind of listening to. Hopefully I'll be done with it by the time I do my next Friday Reads, because we'll be listening to it on the drive. I think it's longer than the drive back and forth will be, so we'll have to listen a little bit over dinner when we get home, which will be fine. So I think that covers Friday Reads for this week. Let me know what you thought of anything I've said. If you have recommendations, any of that stuff, in the comment section down below. Let me know what you have been up to in the reading world and out in the comment section down below as well. And as always, I really appreciate your time. I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.